Hey guys, I'm Jessie of Crochet by Jessie and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a bit of a revisit from a previous video of mine. One of my first videos I released on this channel was how to mosaic crochet, and it's been 9 months since then, so I thought it would be a good idea to just kind of recreate it, make it an extended version so there's a little bit more details and we go through the entire swatch together. So for this video, I've got a moon pattern. I'm going to have the pattern linked in the description below as well, just so you can print off your own chart if you need to, but this is what we're going to be working on. And I'll just be explaining the whole process again. So if you've not seen my initial video, you don't have to look at it. If you have seen my initial video, this is just going to build on the foundations from what you've seen there. So without further ado, let's get to the tutorial. For this tutorial, I have created a free moon pattern. I'm going to have it linked in the description in this video just so you can get a free version for it and print it off yourself. And then I've got a finished version of the pattern as well. I'm using acrylic yarn specifically, so it's double knit acrylic yarn, just so you guys know exactly what I'm using so you can replicate the same type of pattern design. And then I've also got a 4mm crochet hook to go with this specific yarn. You could go as small as 3.5, but I've chosen 4 for this video. And finally, I've got a pair of scissors. You're going to need to use them literally every single row, so we're going to be needing them a lot. When you're looking at a pattern chart, the first thing that's important to note is every single square that you see in this chart is a stitch. So you'll see that I've got different colours going up here along the sides. That indicates what colour you're going to be using. So the pale colour for the background is pale yellow, and then the darker colour here is the dark yellow. And as well as that, you'll see that we've got the blank boxes, that's a single crochet, and then the boxes with X's refer to double crochet. So I'll still reiterate it as we go along, but that's how you read it so far. When looking at the pattern chart, you'll see that there are a total of 28 boxes going along each row, and the entirety of that first row are blank boxes. So to start it off, we're going to do a slip knots. Once that's done, we're going to be doing a total of 28 chains. We're doing 28 chains because there are 28 boxes per row. So this is how it looks with 28 chains. We're going to add one more because we're going to skip it when we're going into the single crochets. So skip the first chain closest to you, and then from the second chain onwards we're going to be doing a single crochet. The reason we're doing that is because that first row on the pattern chart is blank, which means single crochets. And then the reason we're doing this as well by skipping that additional 29th chain is because we're going to have a row of 28 single crochet by the time this row is done. Every time you start a new mosaic crochet design, you're going to start it off in the exact same way as this. The next few steps that I do after are personal choice, but I feel like it's a really good way just to get you used to mosaic crochet. We just have a few more. I believe this is the final single crochet here. Once this is done, you're going to chain, cut your yarn and pull through, and this is how it is looking. It is important to note that because we're cutting it every row, you're not going to flip your work around at all. This is the work that's going to have the pattern design on, and that is how it's always going to be with this type of mosaic crochet. So that is row number 1 finished, and this is what it looks like. We're now going to be going on to row number 2. You'll see it's that darker box on this, which means it's the darker yellow we're working on. And the first thing to note is what we're going to be doing for the entire row is single crochet, because it is a blank row of boxes all over again. So no double crochets whatsoever. We're going to start by attaching our new colour, and in the first stitch we're actually going to go into the front and back loop, and we're going to do a single crochet because we do that at the start and end of every single row. And then once that is done, what's important to know is the rest of the row is going to be single crochet, but we're only going to be going into the back loop. The reason we're doing that is because this is going to be hidden later, and I'll show you guys how that is done and what the process of that is. But we're going to be doing a total of 26 single crochets into the back loop only, up until we get to that last stitch of the row. You guys will also see that on the pattern chart you don't have a different colour on this row, and the reason for that is because this entire row is going to be hidden, so you're not going to see this deeper yellow in this section for this part of the design. The reason I've chosen to include it in the pattern though is just so you guys can fully see how Mosaic Crochet works. Not everyone does this, sometimes they get straight into the design, but I think it just makes sense to have a little bit more of this at the start, just so you can actually understand how some of the work is hidden, how it's revealed, and then how that creates a design overall. We're just finishing up the last of the single crochets. The final single crochet is in the front and back loop, like the first one on the row was. So we're going to do the single crochet front and back loop. We're then going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then that is the end of row number 2. And this is how it is looking. So row number 3 is where you're going to start to understand how Mosaic Crochet works. We're using the pale yellow, and you'll see the entire row is marked with X's, so that means it's going to be double crochet. We're going to attach like we always do. This is going to be a trend. We go into the front and back loop of that first stitch and do a single crochet. Once this is done, we're going to start our double crochet. So what you'll see is we actually are going to be dropping down into the previous row of the same colour. So we're going to drop down into that front loop of the lemon colour that we left exposed. So drop down into that lemon colour, and then you're going to do your double crochet. So we're going to do the loop over again, drop down into that front loop that we left, and then do our double crochet. And you'll see by doing so, we're then hiding that deeper yellow. So you can see it from behind, but you then aren't going to see it as much from the front of the design. So the entirety of this row, because we're dropping down and doing double crochets, we're going to be essentially hiding that deeper yellow in the design. And this is why it's not entirely necessary to do this step, but I think because it is a beginner friendly pattern and I just want to show you guys the basics of Mosaic Crochet before we start working on the actual design aspect, it's something important to include. So we're going to continue to do these double crochets up until we get to that final stitch. Okay, we're at the second to last double crochet, we're on to the last one now, and then once this is done, we're doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of that final stitch. And then once this is done, we're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 3. And this is how it's looking. So you'll see that that deeper yellow is completely hidden. This is how it looks at the back, and that is how it's currently looking at the front. And just to do a little bit of a comparison, that's the finished swatch, and that's what it looks like at the back, and this is how it will look like at the front when it's done. We are now going to be going on to row number 4. You'll see it's that deeper box, which means it's going to be a deeper yellow, and it's completely blank for the row. There are no X's in any of the boxes, which means it's a row of single crochet. So we're going to join by doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the first stitch. And then once this is done, we're going to be doing the single crochets into the back loop only. So we're doing that a total of 26 times until we get to that final stitch on the row. And one thing I would like to point out for you guys is you'll see on the pattern chart now that this row does include a colour change in the actual chart. And the reason for that is because we're not going to be covering the entirety of this row for our row 5. So we're going to be leaving some of this colour revealed, and the reason for that is because that's how we're going to be starting the design. Just finishing up the last of the single crochets in the back loop. The final stitch is the single crochet into the front and back loop like this. We're then going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then once that is done, that is the end of row number 4. And this is how it is looking. We're now going on to row number 5, and we're going to be doing 8 double crochets, then 8 single crochets, and then a further 10 double crochets for this row. You'll see from this stage we're going to be going between single and double crochets for the row, and that is going to be necessary to create our design. So we are going to be starting off, and we're using our pale yellow again, our lemon colour. We're doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the first stitch. And then once that is done, we're then doing 8 double crochets. So that's this little section here. So we're going to be doing our double crochet where we drop down into that front loop of that previous row of the lemon. So the reason we're doing that is because we're choosing to hide this further section of the darker yellow, but we're not going to do that for the entirety of the row, which is why we have that section of single crochet coming up. So we're just going to finish our total of 8 double crochets for the start of this section. It is the last one, and this is how it is looking. So you'll see it's hidden at the front, but the yellow is on the back. And for this next section, we're going to be doing the 8 single crochets. They're going to be going into the back loop only again, but of this different yellow. So we're going to go into the back loop of the deeper yellow, and we're going to be doing that for the next 8 stitches. But you'll see, because we're doing that, we're then actually keeping that dark yellow in the design. So it's not hidden away, it's not behind like the rest of it is, and that is completely intentional because that which you see now is the bottom of the moon pattern. Just to give you guys a little bit more of a close-up, that is how it is looking so far. And what we're going to be doing after we've done our 8 single crochet is we're going to be doing the 10 double crochet to finish off this row. So we're going to go back to covering the rest of the row of the deep yellow because we've already revealed what we need to for this design. And you'll see in a second, I'm going to do another little reveal now to show you guys just how it is looking already. So this is how it's looking. You've got the deep yellow that I've chosen to show for the design, and then the rest has been hidden by more double crochets again. We've just finished the final double crochet, so we're doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. We're chaining, cutting the yarn and pulling through, and that is the end of row number 5. And this is how it is looking so far. We are now on to row number 6, and for this one you'll see that we've got a total of 8 single crochets. We then have 8 double crochets, and then after that we're going to do a final 10 single crochets. So that is going to be row number 6. We are using the deep yellow again, just because we're alternating like A, B, A, B, A, B between the colours. We're going to be doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the first stitch, as we are now always doing, as you've probably gathered. Once that's done, we're doing the 8 single crochets, and it's going to be in the back loop only. So we're going to start that now. That is the first part of this row. Just finishing up the last one now, and then you'll look at your chart again and see that we have now got 8 double crochets that we are going to be doing. So we're going to do a drop down double crochet into that previous row of the deeper yellow, because you'll see again as it works, we've got that front loop still available to drop down and crochet into. And we're going to be doing that a total of 8 times. So this is how it is looking once that is done. That is the bottom of the moon finished. And what we're going to do next is we've got another 10 single crochets on the chart for this row. So we're going to go into the back loop of that double crochet in lemon, and we're just going to go across the top of that row in the back loop only again for these 10 single crochet. Just finishing this one up, and then we're doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. Once that's done, we're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then that is the end of row number 6. And this is how it is looking so far. We are now onto row number 7, and you'll see row number 7 is using the lighter lemon yellow. We've got a total of 4 double crochet to start with. We then have a big section of 16 single crochets that we're going to work into, and we're really starting to develop the bottom of the moon design in this row. And then once that is done, we're then going to have a total of 6 double crochet to finish this row off. So we're going to start by doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the first stitch. And then once that is done, we're going to be doing our 4 double crochets where we drop down into that previous row of the lemon. So we're going to drop down and go into that front loop like so. So that is a total of 4 double crochets dropping down into that previous row of the lemon. That is the 4 double crochets done, and then this next section is the 16 single crochets into the back loop only. And the reason we go into the back loop only is just because it leaves that front loop available in case we want to drop down into that row, and it just makes it easier, because if you didn't do that you wouldn't then be able to continue with the rest of your design. You would just be in a spot where there'd be no space for you to do a double crochet that you can drop down into. That is how it is looking. So on the rest of the chart you can see that there is 6 double crochets. So from this point now we're going to be dropping down into that previous row of the lemon to do our 6 double crochets for the row. Just finishing up the final double crochet now, and then we're doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of that final stitch. You're going to chain, cut your yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 7. And this is how it is looking so far. We are now on to row number 8, and you'll see row number 8 is using the darker yellow. There's 4 single crochets. There is then a total of 16 double crochets for this section. And then once that section is done, then there is a total of 6 single crochets. So we're going to be using the deeper yellow again. We're going to be doing our single crochet into the front and back loop for that first stitch. Once that is done, we're doing 4 single crochets into the back loop only. And then after that, we're then going to be looking at the chart and seeing this is the section of 16 double crochets where we're dropping down into that previous row of the deep yellow. So we're going to be doing our loop over, and then we're going to drop down into that front loop of that previous row of yellow. And we're going to do that a total of 16 times for this part of the row. Just finishing up the final double crochet of that section, and then looking at the row on the chart, we're doing a total of 6 single crochets into the back loop only. So we'll start that now. Just finishing up the final single crochet back loop, and then the final stitch we're doing the single crochet back and front loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and this is how it is looking after row 8 is finished. We are now on to row number 9. For row 9 there's 2 double crochets. There then is going to be a total of 20 single crochets, so we're really starting to see the moon part take over in this design. And then once those 20 single crochets are done, we then have a total of 4 double crochets to finish this row. This row is using the lemon yarn, and we're going to be doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of that first stitch to begin with. We'll see here we've got 2 double crochets to start off with, so we're going to drop down to that previous row of lemon to do our first 2 double crochets. Now that is done, you'll see we've now got this section of 20 single crochets into the back loop only, and we're going to be crocheting into that yellow yarn. We're just finishing that up now, and then you'll look at the chart and see we've got a total of 4 double crochets to work on. So we're going to be dropping down into that previous row of the lemon yarn. We're just finishing up that last double crochet now. We're then doing a single crochet into the front and back loop of this final stitch, chain, cut the yarn and pull through. And this is how it looks with row number 9 finished. And that is how it looks like at the back. We are now on to row number 10, which is going to be 2 single crochets, then it's going to be 20 double crochets, and then after that's done, a further 4 single crochets for the row. We are starting off with our single crochet into the front and back loop of that first stitch. Once this is done, we'll look at the chart again and see we've got 2 single crochets, so 2 single crochets into the back loop only to do. And then once that's done, we're going to look at the chart again and see we're now into our section of 20 double crochets. So we're going to be doing our double crochet dropping down into the front loop of that previous row of the yellow yarn, and we're just going to continue to do that until we've got a total of 20 double crochets. Just finishing the final double crochet now, and then we'll have a look at the chart. This is how it's looking. The chart's now saying we've got a total of 4 single crochets to do, so we're going to do 4 single crochets into the back loop only. Once this final one is done, we're then doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 10, and this is how it is looking. We are now onto row number 11 using the lemon yarn. So using this lemon yarn, we're starting off with 2 double crochets. We're then doing 20 single crochets and then a further 4 double crochets. So we'll start by doing the single crochet into the front and back loop as always. And then once this is done, we'll look at the chart and see 2 double crochets. So we're going to do a drop down into that previous row of the lemon yarn. Once that is done, you will have a look and see that we've got a total of 20 single crochets, 20 blank boxes. So we're going to do 20 single crochet into the back loop only of the yellow yarn. I'm just finishing up the single crochet in the back loop only now. We're going to have a look at the pattern chart and see that we've now got 4 double crochets to do. So we're going to drop down into that previous row of the lemon yarn and do our 4 double crochets. Once this last one here is done, we're doing our single crochet into the back and front loop of that final stitch. Once that is done, we're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 11. And this is how it should be looking at this stage. Row 12 is going to be a little bit more complex. There's 2 single crochet, 2 double crochet, there's then 8 single crochet, 10 double crochets, and then 4 single crochets for the entirety of this row. We're going to start off by doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of that first stitch. Once that's done, we'll see again on the chart we've got 2 single crochets in the back loop only to do. And then once that is done, we'll see we've got 2 double crochet. So we've got 2 double crochet dropping down into that previous row of the yellow. We then, having a look at the chart again, have a total of 8 single crochets to do. So we're doing 8 single crochet going into the back loop only of that row of lemon yarn. Once that is done, we'll check the chart again and see that we then have 10 double crochets to do. So we're going to do 10 double crochets dropping down into that previous row of the yellow yarn. After this one here is finished, we'll check the chart again and see that we have got 4 single crochets to do. So we're doing 4 single crochets into the back loop only. And do excuse me, I read the wrong chart row, but it's still 4 single crochet. So 4 single crochet back loop only, which we're doing now. And then once that is done, we're then doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 12. And once that's done, this is how it's looking. We're now on to row number 13. Row number 13 is going to have 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 8 double crochets, 12 single crochets, and then 2 double crochets. So we're using the lemon yarn again for this row, and we're going to start by doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of that first stitch. Once that's done, we'll look at the chart again and see that it is going to be 2 double crochets. So we're doing 2 double crochets dropping down into that previous row of the lemon yarn. Once that is done, you'll see that we have got 2 single crochets and we're going into the back loop only. After that is done, we then have a total of 8 double crochets. So we're going to be doing 8 double crochets dropping down into that previous row of the lemon yarn. Once this last double crochet is done, we're going to check the chart again, and it's going to be 12 single crochet going into the back loop only. So that's what we're going to do for the next section. So 12 single crochet going into the back loop of that yellow yarn. Just finishing up the last of the single crochet now, and then checking again with the chart, we've got a total of 2 double crochets to do. So we're dropping down into that lemon yarn for 2 double crochets. Once that is done, we're then doing a single crochet into the front and back loop of this final stitch here. We're then going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 13. And once row number 13 is done, your swatch should be looking like this. We're now on to row number 14, and for row number 14 we're going to be doing 14 single crochet, 10 double crochet and then 2 single crochet. From this stage of the tutorial I am just going to be working through the entire of the row in one go and showing you guys what it should look like at the end. If you're having a little bit of an issue, then definitely go through the previous rows again just to get used to how you do the process, but I'm going to be giving you guys little check-ins and then giving you a little bit more independence to finish the rows yourself. Just finishing up the last double crochet now. We're then doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch, chain, cut your yarn and pull through, and that's the end of row number 14, and this is how it's looking. We're now on to row number 15, which is 14 double crochets, starting off this section here. It's then 10 single crochet, 2 double crochet again. Once this double crochet is done, we're doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 15. And this is how it should be looking. We are now onto row number 16, which is going to be 16 single crochet, 8 double crochet, 2 single crochet. Just finishing up the last of the single crochet into the back loop only now. We're then doing a single crochet into the front and back loop for the final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then that is the end of row number 16, and this is how it is looking at this stage. We're now on to row number 17, which is 16 double crochet, 8 single crochet, 2 double crochet. Just finishing up that double crochet here, and then it's a single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch. We're then going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 17. And this is how it is looking. Now we are on to row number 18, which is 16 single crochet, 8 double crochet, and then 2 single crochet. And then we've got the final stitch, the single crochet into the front and back loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through. That is row number 18 finished, and this is how it is looking. We're now on to row number 19, which is 14 double crochet, 10 single crochet and 2 double crochet. Just finishing the final double crochet, and then it is a single crochet into the front and back loop of the final stitch, chain, cut the yarn and pull through. That's the end of row number 19, and then this is how it looks like at the end of that row. We are now onto row number 20, this row here, and we're using the yellow yarn for it. We're doing 14 single crochets, we're then doing a total of 10 double crochets and then 2 single crochets for this row. We're just finishing the single crochet in the back loop only at the end here. We're doing a single crochet into the front and back loop for that final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 20. And this is how it is looking like once the row is done. We're now onto row number 21, which is going to be 2 double crochet, 2 single crochet, 8 double crochet, 12 single crochet, 2 double crochet. And we're using the lemon yarn for this. Just finishing up the final 2 double crochets for this row. Once this is done, we're doing the single crochet into the front and back loop of that final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through. That's the end of row number 21, and this is how it's looking. Now onto row number 22, which is 2 single crochet, 2 double crochet, 8 single crochet, 10 double crochet, 4 single crochet. Just finishing up the last of the single crochet in the back loop only. The final stitch is the single crochet into the front and back loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then that is the end of row number 22. And this is how it should be looking at this stage. We're now onto row number 23, and that is going to be 2 double crochet, 20 single crochet, and then 4 double crochet. Once that is done, we're doing the single crochet into the front and back loop for the final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through. That is the end of row number 23, and this is how it is looking. We are on to row number 24. That is 2 single crochet, 20 double crochet, 4 single crochet for this row. Just finishing the final single crochet back loop. Final stitch is the single crochet in the front and back loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 24, and this is how it is looking. We're on to row number 25. That is 2 double crochet, 20 single crochet, 4 double crochet. Just finishing up the last of the double crochets now. We're then doing a single crochet into the front and back loop of that final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that is the end of row number 25. We're now on to row 26, which is 4 single crochet, 16 double crochet, 6 single crochet. Just finishing up the last few single crochets in the back loop only. We're then doing a single crochet in the front and back loop of the final stitch, chain, cut your yarn and pull through, and that's the end of row number 26, and this is how it looks. Row number 27 is going to be 4 double crochet, 16 single crochet, and then 6 double crochet. We're just going to do the final double crochets now. The final stitch is a single crochet front and back loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through. That's the end of row number 27, and this is how it's looking. We're now on to row number 28, which is 8 single crochet, 8 double crochet, and then 10 single crochet. Finishing the last of the single crochet back loop only. The final stitch is the single crochet in the front and back loop, chain, cut the yarn and pull through. We're then going to have the end of row number 28, and this is how it looks. We're on to row number 29. That's 8 double crochet, 8 single crochet, 10 double crochet. So that's 8, 8, 10. Just finishing the last of the double crochet. We're then doing a single crochet into the front and back loop of this final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and that's the end of row number 29, and this is how it should be looking. That's the end of the moon part of the design. We're on to row number 30. It's completely single crochet, so 26 single crochet. The final stitch is the single crochet front and back loop. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through. If I can do the stitch right, there we are. Chain, cut the yarn, pull through, and then this is what it should look like by the end of row number 30. We're on to row number 31. It is a row completely of double crochet, so it will be 26 double crochet, but we're still as always going to be doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of that first stitch and the last stitch. As we are getting to the end of this pattern and this tutorial, I want to say thank you guys for sticking around until this stage. I do hope this tutorial has helped you guys understand Mosaic Crochet a little bit more. Please do let me know in the comments below if it has. As well as that, if you have some different requests for certain design ideas and swatches like this, then please also do say so I can make some more future videos using that idea. If you haven't already, please do press that subscribe button so you can continue to see content like this. It's my goal to be able to release as many free tutorials and patterns as I can, especially in Mosaic Crochet, because I'm aware there's not a lot of free patterns and options out there currently. We're doing our single crochet into the front and back loop of that final stitch. We're going to chain, cut the yarn and pull through, and then that is the end of row number 31, and that is the end of our pattern swatch. This is how it's looking. By this stage, you should have a swatch looking something like this, fingers crossed. I'm really hoping that this video just helped you guys if you are completely new to Mosaic Crochet or if you needed a bit of a refresher. Fingers crossed it did help you guys. And if you want to see more content like this or just working through swatches for Mosaic Crochet, I'm starting to post a lot more of that on this channel, then please do subscribe as well as pressing the bell to be notified when my next video is up. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you next time.